You are looking at the new for 2018 Buick Enclave, a 3-row SUV that is 2 inches longer than the outgoing model. While many things have changed for the 2018 model year, the roomy interior and smooth, quiet ride remain well intact. In fact, it's only gotten better. This particular one is the Premium, which means it comes standard with things like a 10-speaker Bose sound system, heated and cooled front seats, heated second-row seats, a power tilt and telescoping heated steering wheel, power folding third-row seats, and a whole host of safety features. The 2018 Enclave has a base price of just a hair under $40,000. This premium version starts at $48,000. The big question in my mind is, how does it compare to the competition in the ever-growing SUV market? Maybe a better question is it the best choice for a luxury 3-row SUV? Having a 3-row SUV is really something that a lot of people have been asking about. Asking me, there's a lot of articles about it. It seems like every company is coming out with a new SUV. But these 3-row SUVs have become incredibly popular, especially with folks that have more than a couple of kids and they want to take the grandparents, aunts and uncles, and they want to go on trips. Maybe their kid's on some sort of a traveling, soccer or gymnastics team or something. And so I think it's really good for Buick to take their main 3-row SUV, the Enclave, and to really update it and make it all new for 2018, because this field has gotten very competitive. Having said that about the competition, I'm struggling to come up with who the direct competition is for the Enclave, especially just based on price. The base price for this car is right at $40,000, and the fully loaded price is somewhere around $56,000 to $57,000. And that's kind of in that no man's land where if you're buying a domestic or you're buying a Hyundai or a Kia or something in that price range and you start to option it up, that could be somewhere in the $35,000 to $50,000 price range. But if you're wanting to go with something that's European, or you're wanting to go with one of the more luxury Japanese brands like maybe a Lexus, that is going to be starting at really where this car is topping out, especially with this number of options, safety features, navigation, all the different things that people want related to tech. And so I'm struggling to tell you what car is this car's direct competitor. And maybe that's a good thing, because then Buick kind of has carved out this niche for something that a lot of people want. They want a lot of luxury features. They want a lot of the safety features. They want a third row that's actually usable. Being in the second row, you can see that there's just so much space there, and those captain's chairs. That's another thing I'm hearing from a lot of people when it comes to a 3rd-row SUV. They want those captain's chairs in the second row, and a lot of that has to do with the ease at which your kids can get into the 3rd row, and then adults can be in the 2nd row, and the whole family gets in the car and everybody's nice and comfortable. Now, one of the things that you want to find out when you're looking at a large SUV like this, especially one with 3 rows, is how is the space in the back? You know, it's fine for the driver and the passenger to have plenty of space, but if you're sitting in the back, especially as an adult, now I'm almost 6 feet tall, and you can see that I have plenty of room, and this passenger seat is really probably close to where it would be if someone was sitting up there. The same with this driver's seat. Obviously, someone is driving. The car's not driving itself. But one of the things I will mention about being back here is that we have a lot of different controls. These seats are heated. We have automatic climate controls in a 3rd zone. Each person back here has a USB outlet so you can plug in a device, keep your phone charged. You have this nice armrest as well. And these captain's chairs are very nice because they mimic the front 2 seats. So as an adult, to be able to sit in a seat that feels more like an adult seat and not like a bench, or not like, something that the headrest kind of hits you wrong because you're tall or what have you, I think that really makes a difference in a car like this. I'm very, very impressed with how much room there is in the 2nd row. The 3rd row is somewhat usable depending on how you adjust the 2nd row. These seats can slide fore and aft, which really helps to make room for the rear passengers as well, and kind of split that difference depending on how tall all of your passengers are. Another nice feature back here is you have these vents up here so you can actually get some air in your face. Those are in the 3rd row as well. You have this nice sunroof, which does have a sunshade. The glass does not open, but this is an option. The front glass opens, this back one is just fixed. Now, personally, I would like for there to be even more glass than this. I know some people are kind of split on whether or not a panoramic moonroof is a cool thing or not. But I think having more glass makes the cabin feel kind of light and airy and makes it feel like it's a bigger space than it actually is. And I think smaller cars can get away with being smaller and being more compact by having a glass roof, just to make the rear occupants feel like they have a little bit more space. Speaking of these captain's chairs and how comfortable they are, I can pull this lever and you can recline a little bit too. So you really, when you put your feet out here, I'm ready for a road trip. So please, driver, take us to a nice location. Let's get something to eat too on the way. What do you say? I love to talk about features. I love to talk about all the safety features. This car has lane keeping assist as well as a lane departure warning. It has blind spot monitoring. It has the active cruise control. It has forward collision alert, a lot of those different features. It's really kind of neat because a lot of that is happening in the background. Those are so many things that are on your options list or on the standard features list, particularly on this one, which is almost the top of the line model. There's a new sub-brand line that they're calling the Avenir, which is a little bit of an interesting deal. It's supposed to just be a little bit more luxurious. The navigation system on this vehicle is pretty easy to use, although I'm not a huge fan of the map itself. It's a good layout. The screen seems large enough, but for some reason, the graphics on there, I find them to be just a little bit, that you have to glance a little bit longer at them than what you do with other systems. Being critical of a car's infotainment system, that's really an area that kind of comes down to personal preference. Let's talk about how this car drives. It is an incredibly quiet car to drive, especially in this category. Buick is supposed to be a more luxurious version of a General Motors vehicle, and obviously this car shares a platform with the Traverse, but this definitely is getting you more into the luxury market with the quietness. This has the noise canceling, the acoustic noise canceling, which makes it feel like you're driving inside of a Bose headphone. It's a neat feature, and it really does work, and you really have no idea that it's working. You probably have no idea how it works, let's be honest. But having a quiet interior is really what folks are looking for that want to step up to this Buick brand and step up to the Enclave, which is the top of the line SUV from Buick. It's not only quiet and easy to drive, it has a very smooth ride as well. I read online that some people said they thought these seats were kind of stiff or kind of hard, and they thought that the ride was a little bit stiffer than what it should be. But having driven this now for a couple of days, I don't find that to be the case at all. I think these seats are very comfortable. They certainly hug you in all the right places. And they have a wide range of adjustments. So if it doesn't fit the way you want it to, you can make those adjustments and then tailor it to fit your needs. Are these seats as luxurious, and do they have as many movements as you would in, let's say, a Range Rover or a top-of-the-line Lexus or an Audi? No, but this car starts at $40,000. Some of those cars are pushing into the $75,000 to $100,000 category. So for what this car is and for what the price is, I think you're getting pretty good value for your money. These seats are heated and cooled. The second row of seats are heated. The heated steering wheel, especially when you first fire it up, you can just leave your gloves at home. The lane keeping assist comes in at just the right time on the highway. It's very quiet and it's very comfortable. And I think the fact that you can actually use that third row if you're somebody that's not a preschooler, I think that is a big thing. You know, lots of cars have third rows, but can you use it? That's the number one question. And in this case, I think that you really can. Certainly the second row is made for adults and ready for your next road trip. Other characteristics of how this car drives, I talked about how smooth and quiet it is. It also feels like it has an adequate amount of power. This is a V6 engine. There's no turbocharging, no superchargers or anything like that. Just an old school naturally aspirated V6 from GM. And it feels nice. It doesn't feel underpowered, but it doesn't feel, it's not really sporty. It's not supposed to be sporty. This isn't meant to do that. It's meant to have enough power when you need to get on the highway or you need to pass somebody on a 2-lane road or even on the highway. It's not supposed to win a drag race. It has a good amount of power. Adequate is how I would describe it. I don't think you'll be disappointed with it at all. So pros and cons with the 2018 Buick Enclave. One of the pros, I think the styling of this car has gotten a little bit smoother and just a little classier than what the old versions were. I know that there's like a first generation and then there's the refresh. Technically, they refer to this as the second generation model, even though they did a little bit of a body style refresh. This car's been out for 10 years. It started in 2008. And so I think this new look really gives it a little bit of a classier look. It has, you know, smoother lines. I think it really classes up the look of this SUV, which I think is a really good thing. And I think that's definitely a pro. The second row comfort is a pro. These captain's chairs, people have been asking for them. You really can't get them with this many luxury features in this price category. I think on the cons list, I think the price, as you start to option this car up with some of the stuff that I feel like should be standard at a lower price. Is $55,000 too much for all this stuff? I'm kind of on the fence about that. I think if this car was fully loaded for less than $50,000, I think they would have a hard time keeping them in stock. As that price starts to get higher and higher, I think there starts to be other options. But you know what? Maybe the person who's going to buy this Buick has had a Chevrolet Traverse and they just want to get a little bit more luxury. They want things to be a little bit more quiet, and they're not even considering something from Acura or Lexus or maybe even an Audi Q7. Some other things on the cons list, there's just a couple little things that kind of irritate me, but I think it's something that you just have to get used to. The first thing is, I'm not a fan of the whole stop-start function thing that every car brand seems to be doing these days. And I'm not a fan of it because a lot of cars, I feel like it's very intrusive, and it feels like that the car has died, the whole car shakes when it starts back up, and that gets to be a little bit annoying, especially in stop-and-go traffic. I understand it's saving emissions and fuel, and I know that that's the way things are going, but I just don't want it to be so intrusive. You know, when you drive a hybrid car, if you drive a hybrid Lexus or the plug-in hybrid BMW X5, or you drive a Prius, it's not so jarring when the gas engine comes on and off. And so I don't really understand why it has to be so jarring with the start-stop function on some of these cars. This one is probably one of the better ones, I have to say, but my issue is that you can't turn it off, and that's a little bit annoying to me. I would like to be able to say, look, I'm done with the start-stop function at this point, so can I please turn it off? That's not an option in this car. Now, one of the things that does kind of annoy me in this car, and it goes on the cons list, is this shifter. Mostly because it's just hard to get used to because of the way you have to move it forward and to the side for reverse. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in this video, but the park button is on the top. You have to use this button on the left side to then indicate that you want to move it into drive, neutral, or reverse, or even low, to then use the paddle shifters. In fact, it's so complicated that when I got into the car, Buick had this nice little booklet here in about 5 different languages for electronic precision shift. And so it tells you here how to, okay, shift from park to reverse. With your foot on the brake, press and hold the shift interlock button with your thumb, press forward, and then to the left. The backup camera comes on. It's fine if you're just backing out of your driveway or a parking spot, but when you're trying to do a complicated deal like parallel parking, or you're trying to maneuver into a parking garage or something, it just gets really complicated because you're sometimes in neutral, you're sometimes in reverse. It's hard to get used to. That's what I will say about it. But here's what I will tell you. The reason they do stuff like this, obviously the transmission is electronic. This isn't actually connected to the transmission or anything of this sort. It's all electronic now, and so they have this shift interlock button so that nobody can just bump this. You'll see here, nobody can just bump it if you're in the passenger seat, or somebody that's putting their, you know, their humongous 44-ounce drink in the cup holder or their water bottle or something, so it would accidentally go into reverse while it's in drive. So it does make sense. I just feel like there's got to be a better way for it to move than the way that this is. And honestly, you'll get used to it. I keep going back to the idea that the Enclave has no real direct competition when it comes to price. That price range of $40,000 to $60,000 puts it in range of vehicles like the Lexus GX and the Audi Q7. Now, if we're honest, the Audi can easily top $70,000 with a few options, and the Lexus has more of that luxury truck feel. Actually, a loaded GX can also go well into the $60,000 price range. The Enclave itself feels very car-like, and I think that's a good thing. Anytime you have a 3-row SUV and it doesn't feel like you're driving a bus or a delivery truck, I think that's a win. After all, that is the point of a crossover. Other 3-row SUVs either cost more, don't have as much space, and aren't as well appointed. In fact, maybe all 3 of those things. Back to the pricing for a minute. The one we drove was $55,000, and I can't think of anything it needed that it didn't have. Most people could be happy with the Essence trim level. That starts under $50,000. The point of the Enclave is to have the space and a quiet, comfortable ride. It certainly accomplishes those things, and in my opinion, it looks better doing it, both inside and out, for the 2018 model year. Well, thanks for watching this edition of Phil's Morning Drive. We hope to see you next time.